have a player that as they get closer to the hole, they put on new pressures. What would be some ways to train and to think differently on the golf course to maybe relax a little of that pressure?
Want me to start?
Sure.
I'm sure that you two will have some good drills and things that you do with players. But I guess from my perspective, I would want to talk to the player about what goals they have during the whole process of planning the putt and executing the putt and then the post putt, and understand what goals would be the most important, the most relevant, the ones that are going to be most related to their best performances. So that basically, I think if people have heard me before, they know that I think about goals as being the key organizer of all the other stuff that's going through our minds and our bodies and even our movement patterns. And so, going through the whole process in which you are predicting the break, checking out distance, and all those different aspects, if they can look at those as specific kinds of goals, and each one's a goal in itself. And one of the things that can help is because a lot of times what happens, of course, they're indecisive at the putt. They're indecisive. They're not really sure what's going on. And so, or they go back and they start second guessing themselves after they've made a decision. And so one of the things that can help some of the players is to be sure that once you go through a process, you do it with the level of focus that you know that once that process is done, that particular piece of the assessment of the putt, for instance, once it's done, your goal has been achieved. And that is just so important for someone to go like, okay, that is truly done. So like usually when we achieve a goal, we can move on. So this is what this is all about. You get that taken care of. You've got the break predicted, or you get the distance. You go, okay, I got that. You move on to the next thing, and you get it all taken care of. So you realize that each time that the goal is achieved, you realize that is the signal or trigger to move on to the next goal. And there's a goal for each aspect of it all the way through execution. And I just think that that's so important for people to understand and to commit to that, because what happens is typically is the fear that is usually the problem in putting. And certainly there's other problems too, but fear is usually the problem. And so that fear comes into play because they haven't fully felt like they completed the goals before. And so they just keep recycling that same stuff that keeps coming back. And now they're over the putt. And now they're not really sure what to do or how it's going to work. And the uncertainty increases. So I know that's a little different idea there, but you have to understand. But I just think that's so important because that allows somebody to move on.
Yeah.
I think we all know that once we hit a goal, we feel good and we can do that. So I think that's an important part on the putting green as well.
Yeah, I say pressure certainly is a product of perception. One, are you aware of the environment? Are you prepared for what it is? Do you have tactics to be able to manage the environment? And it comes down to training, honestly, both mentally training, physically training, technique training. But when you come in and you have a 5-footer, just from a concept we talked about, hitting the drive out of play versus missing a putt or not making the putt. Missing a 5-footer has a bigger strokes lost on your scorecard than hitting a ball out of bounds statistically. So the key is that when you go in to hit this putt, what is the process that's involved in this, as Mike talked about? But instead of the viewpoint of feeling the pressure, I hope I don't miss this putt, I hope I don't pull it, I've been pulling putts. You need to go in there and allow yourself to be successful, number one, by knowing about your training habits in the past that walk into that putt with confidence. You watch some of the greatest putters that you'll see week in and week out that are playing the weekend, that are making money putts to finish in the top 10 or the top 5 or to get their status for that week, like Luke Clanton coming up. He needs one more point to be able to make it. When he walks in to hit a putt, he walks in with confidence and authority and desire to execute that process instead of, worrying about his technique or those kinds of things. So if you walk into this putt and you allow yourself, as you walk in, to go, I've made thousands of 5-footer left or rights on a 2% slope downhill, I'm going to drain this one too. That's only more fuel to your fire success.